And with us on the broadcast this minute is Dr. Vaheguru Pal Singh Sidhu, who is a professor at the Center for Global Affairs at the New York University. He's joining us from New York. Thanks very much for being here with us. Your assessment of that joint statement that was delivered by Prime Minister Modi and Vice President Kamala Harris, a lot of aspects of that partnership that were touched upon, the Vice President also lauding India's Vaccine Maitri initiative.
Thank you for having me on the program, and your assessment is right in terms of the joint statement showing really the depth of the countries, the oldest in many ways and the largest democracies in the world, which are now working together very practically at the bilateral, plurilateral and the multilateral level. In all areas and aspects of it. So you very much saw, it could be summed up really in 4 areas that the two countries are working jointly together: development, diplomacy, defense, and diaspora. And there, of course, Kamala Harris very much sums up all 4 of them in her opening remarks, and Prime Minister's response to that, where you saw the two coming together. Not just for India's concerns in the second wave of COVID-19, but also as part of the global endeavor, which is really part of the US plan as well. And the two countries are now very intertwined for the success or failure of their global COVID contributions.
Right. When we talk about the expectations from the Indian Prime Minister's US visit, there are a lot of aspects to be watched out for. What, in your view, would be some of the major expectations that India would have, talking about the bilateral that is scheduled to be held with the American President Joe Biden tomorrow, followed by that all-important Quad meeting as well?
Absolutely, and I think maybe we can go down those four sort of alliterations, 4 Ds that I talked about. I think first of all, just in terms of development, we've already seen Prime Minister Modi meet with a lot of CEOs here in New York. And in other parts as well, but also building on that. So very much making sure that India is open for business. And now that the World Bank has actually done away with the ease of doing business, standards, India needs to really prove in other ways that it is very much open for business. So that was one element there as well. Second, I think, and there, of course, even in terms of development, I would say the joint effort against COVID is something that is very, very clearly coming through from his meeting with Vice President Harris. And it's going to be reiterated tomorrow with the meeting with President Biden as well. So on the development front, I think there's a great opportunity, particularly given the doldrums that US-China relations are in as well. So it's really a real opportunity for India there as well. I think on defense, that is perhaps the most understated but most significant development between these two countries, not only at the bilateral level, but also through Quad. Many people don't realize this is the second summit-level meeting that Quad is holding within a year, and the very first face-to-face meeting of the 4 principals, which is a huge story and development, given that there's only been one meeting with NATO allies. So I think it's a really important contribution there as well. I think the third is obviously, President Biden is very, very aware of the role of the Indian diaspora here in every walk of life. And that is obviously exemplified in Vice President Kamala Harris. And that's something that will definitely, come up as well. Last but not the least, I think they're also going to be talking about the diplomatic dimensions of it, particularly in anticipation of Prime Minister Modi's speech to the UN on Saturday. So I think on all 3 levels, at the bilateral, the regional, or the plurilateral and the global level, the two countries really have a lot to look forward to in this meeting. A lot is riding on it.
Right. And before I let you go, your view also on tackling the elephant in the room, rather the dragon in the room, your assessment of the scope and potential of chord when it comes to countering China?
There are two different things in the US thinking. It's more perhaps the idea of countering China. But I think in the Indian perspective, it's not so much to contain or counter China necessarily, but to make sure that China works by the same rules that everybody else works with, right? And accepts the open, the open policies, the open seas policies, for example, in the Indo-Pacific and other approaches as well. And if China is not willing to do that, then really to try and challenge China or to try and work, to bring China diplomatically onto the same pathway. It's a big ask. Neither country, frankly, in my opinion, has the potential to tackle China on its own. And even collectively, I think that there are going to be limitations politically as well as diplomatically, given the kind of role that China is playing now in all spheres, including the UN. So I think it's really important for the US and India, along with other partners, not just Australia and Japan, but even France, which is why India met with, President Macron and Prime Minister Modi met, is really very much to drive this idea of either trying to convince China to play by the rules, and if that doesn't happen, to do their best to then try and counter China, to use your phrase.
Right. Dr. Sidhu, we're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for joining us with those perspectives. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.